but please stand for the honor guard.
Present colors. Right, face. Ready, step. Post, colors. Ready, two. Ready, step. Left, face. Forward, march. Forward, march.
Please be seated. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Come on. Good morning. Good morning, Heather. All right. Thank you very much. Welcome to Department of Corrections Reward and Recognition 2016. We are so happy that you're all here. I'm so grateful for everyone who's given us a hand in planning this. And I want to start by saying some thank yous to some folks. I know everyone that came in stopped at the registration desk and gave your name. I want all of us to give a big round of applause to Jan and Wendy, who have held this together. Thanks so much. They're behind the podium. You can't see them, so wave. They're there. This is not an easy event to put together, and they've been super diligent in looking after all the details. Also, a huge thank you to Mark Shelton, who's been doing this for I don't know how many years. It gets bigger every year because it's getting better and more popular and supported. And Mark Shelton has done so much to keep this moving and is really participating behind the scenes to make sure that we all have an event that we love. So thank you very much, Mark, for that. The rest of the HRD unit, they've all done their piece. We want you to have a good time, but also we want you to know how much you matter to us. And this kind of event, we call it reward and recognition, and today I think more than anything, we need to be paying attention to the word recognition. I know all of us have heavy hearts this morning with regards to the events of Saturday night in Orlando. I know that this calls to attention what we need to be doing as departments to be responsive. And this is a department that responds. And we have a workforce that responds. And today just isn't about award recipients, but it's about everybody. We certainly appreciate what all of you have done, but I want us to think for a second what all of this means. We have a piece of this, and I know it's not been an easy year. In the last year, we certainly miss our sister Laura Sobel, and we are very plugged in and in tune to the sacrifices that all of you make in order to keep this state safe, to make us a better department, to engage in the things that are mission critical, and to show up when it's most important, and to be leaders, courageous leaders. And for that, I thank all of you. And I just wanted to point that out in terms of what we're looking at today with all of the award recipients. I also want to thank the family members. There are more here this year than any other year. And without the support of all of you, family members, and I can see you out there, and there's babies here too, by the way. And that makes our commissioner very happy. And if your baby is missing, she has it, I promise you. But if you have little ones with you and they decide to cry or speak up or interrupt us, please keep them in here. This is what we do this for. We want to hear those noises. We love those noises. Nobody take them outside. So bring on the babies. For all of you that are partners and daughters, sons, spouses, supporters of the folks that are receiving an award today, we thank you for your support, for what you've done. It's all in the name of leadership. You are leading in your way, in your family, to keep the work moving, the work that's not easy. There's been a lot of discussion in this state and across the country about what it takes to be organizationally resilient. And here's what we know about that. We cannot be resilient if we are not having events like this. This is really not a party or a ceremony. This is a call to action, and gratitude is on the agenda. We're thankful, and we want to point that out over and over again, and we want to say that we want to do this more often. So with that, I'd like to also say one more thing about how important I think this event is in moving forward. We'll do more of these, and we want to hear from managers across the state who I know have taken the time to make these nominations. And if you were someone who made a nomination for someone above you in your pay grade, then that's even better courageous leadership. Then you're not afraid to lead up, to point out the things that you see are happening that are good things. So all of you are getting an award today from me, which is my undying gratitude that you're paying attention to the things that are important, that you're working with us in central office, and believe me, I know that's not easy to do. None of us are going to deny that, right? Central office? Right. Right, okay. I'm reading my notes because I think I forgot to thank somebody and I don't know who it is yet, and that's what happens when, frankly, I speak from the heart. So hang on, just let me look down for a second. Nope, I think we're good. I would now like to introduce our Commissioner, Lisa Menard.
Morning. I was just my marching orders. The first thing I want to say is make sure you all have coffee. It's important that coffee be appreciated and enjoyed here today, and if you want to know why, Heather will let you know offline. I don't have a lot to say because I think Heather just stole all my thunder. She really covered nearly everything. Two things that two people I do want to thank, and one is obviously Heather for really putting this together, so thank you, Heather. And I don't think she's here, but Barb Hagan as well was very helpful to us on some quality assurance efforts so that you're not trading in your plaque at the end of the day. A few things that I do want to say in thinking about coming here today and thinking about, I read all the nominations that were presented for this event, and frankly, they're stunning. The things that people are doing, the amount of time that people have put into this department and the state. But what it really made me think about is on a day-to-day basis, what everybody in this department does, which is what makes you all even more remarkable when you think about the law. When we think about every day over 5,000 meals are prepared in facilities with no problems. Every day, probably 5,000 sick slips are put in, and people are seen, that's managed. Every day in a facility, there is some form of mental health crisis. You all intervene in that so that there is not an incident. In the field, hundreds of offenders are contacted daily. They're offered support to make the changes, and where it's appropriate, they're held accountable. Public safety comes first. Every day, children are screened through into facilities to visit with their parents, to maintain their bond with them so that hopefully they don't come into our system in another way. These are things that everyone here does every day. No one is coming to work one more year because they think, if I go one more year, I'll get that plaque. You're all doing it because you're professional, you care about the people you work for, and that's just what you do. That's the bar you've set. So thank you all that are here very much for doing what you do every day, as well as doing something even beyond. So thank you. Thank you all. All right. This is the State of Vermont Executive Department proclamation. I may need some to hold it way over there for me. Normally, in the past, this has gone to the chair of the Corrections Bargaining Unit, which was great and appropriate. This year, we thought it would be nice to send one back to every work site so that you can each have it in your lobbies. Unfortunately, whoever gets here first gets the framed one, and you're on your own for the other, but we'll approve the expense for the frame. What it says. One of the primary goals for the state of Vermont is to provide its citizens with an effective criminal justice system that focuses on quality of life and safety for all of our citizens. And Vermont's dedicated correctional employees are essential to our justice system. And much is expected from the men and women who every day supervise offenders in correctional facilities and in the community, and without whose daily hard work and sacrifices we could not operate. And correctional employees are skilled professionals who must act as counselors, communicators, educators, and experts at crisis intervention, and must protect our safety while maintaining their professional demeanor, often in a challenging environment. And correctional employees must possess the intuitive sense to resolve conflict and support restorative activities while housing offenders in a humane environment or supervising offenders in the community, often to the risk of their own well-being. And the state of Vermont is pleased to celebrate Correctional Employees Week and is urging all citizens to pay special tribute to these women and men who serve so faithfully. Signed by Peter Shumlin, Governor, June 12th of 2016. So make sure you come up and get one of these for your respective sites before you leave. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our agency Deputy Secretary, Paul Dragon. Paul, like most of us, is a very long state employee. He has worked at the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Children and Family Services. He has a special interest in poverty. Our clients, many of our clients, obviously we can relate to that work. Paul has also done significant work with us around housing and around the mental health needs of our offenders. We're very happy to have Paul here today.
Well, thank you all so much for having me here today. You get stuck with the Deputy Secretary. I hope that's not too bad. Hal Cohen, our Secretary, does send his regrets. I know he would have loved to be here today, but I got to tell you, I wanted to do this. I wanted to let you know how much we appreciate you and what we think of you. The events in Orlando yesterday are just a really vivid reminder of how brutal this world can be and how important your work is and the work you do to keep us safe. There is not too many states that have integrated their Department of Corrections within the Agency of Human Services. And we do that intentionally because we cannot do that work without you. We need to do that work together. It's so very, very important. The Department of Corrections always strives to do more, to do better. Institutions are very, very powerful things. The Department of Corrections is a very powerful thing. The Agency of Human Services is a very powerful thing. Now, institutions can do one of two things. They can lift us up, they can heal, they can repair, or they can contain, they can control, they can put down. The Department of Corrections has always been a place of lifting people up and moving them forward. I know a little bit about institutions, both professionally and personally. I grew up in Cranston, Rhode Island, and yes, that is some pretty flat land. And that town is dominated by institutions. They've got minimum security, medium security, maximum security, supermax. They've got the state psychiatric hospital. When I was growing up, it was the largest state hospital in New England, and it still may well be. It has Saconaset, the juvenile detention center, notorious, huge, and now closed. When we were growing up, we were told when we were misbehaving, be careful or you're going to end up there. And we all knew where there was. And a lot of us did end up there. My mother spent most of my childhood at the psychiatric facility, in and out. My sister spent about a year at the juvenile detention center, had cousins and friends and medium, minimum security. When I was 16, I was given the choice of either living with my uncle, Cranston police detective, or going to the juvenile detention center. I chose my uncle. Smartest thing I did. He really helped me out. I'm telling you this, I've never said this in public before, I'm telling you this because institutions can either harm or they can heal. And I've seen all sides of that. In the United States, we have this historical narrative of individualism, that everybody's accountable, people are accountable for their own fate and where they go in life, and it comes down to individual responsibility. I buy into that. I've got 3 teenage daughters. I tell them that too frequently, they'll say. But there is another narrative in this country, and it's about a collection of people coming together to heal and to restore. It's about our institutions, which are constant, consistent, and are there to help. It's about our communities. Our institutions and communities have as much to do with lifting people up as any other historical narrative around individualism that we have. And DOC represents the best of that. 20 community justice centers all around the state. You've partnered with communities to make that happen. 58 new COSA groups all around the state. People volunteering, 700 volunteers, 22,000 volunteer hours, 2,000 referrals to COSA, an 86% reduction in reconviction for those who have gone to COSA compared to those who have not. Community High School of Vermont, educating, giving life skills, making sure that once people are out, they don't come back in. These are all powerful tools that you have. I work with some people on SFI, Larry, John, and staff from all around that state, and when I'm at that meeting, I see their commitment, not only to the individuals getting out of prison, but to the communities where they're going. It's their desire to partner with the rest of the agency to make sure the person is safe, to make sure they've got a plan, and to make sure that the community is safe. Your focus on safety, you've been leaders for this state and for our agency. When Lara Sobel died, I was at a meeting in Barrie and DOC staff were there. And you partnered with the rest of the agency all around the state, volunteering to go on home visits, doing what you had to do to make sure that we were safe and that we were whole. And we continue to get threats, you know that, from all over the place. But like David Ortiz says, I'll paraphrase, this is our house and nobody messes with it. I sanitize that because Lisa told me you guys don't swear. So I really want to thank you all for keeping our house safe, our house whole, our house secure, and not just being an agency or a department that contains and controls, but being the Department of Corrections. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And I have to say that you were able to get the Red Sox into that. Makes you my favorite student. Absolutely. I'm going to bring Heather and Cheryl up, or I'm going to bring Heather up, and then we're going to get started. Thanks.
Mark, can you tell us all what to do, please?
Two of us are new at this, so.
Lost my notes. Okay, so, thank you very much, Paul. That was great. We appreciate that, and we always appreciate when we have folks from the agency come to these events. It means a lot. The next thing on the agenda are the awards, and our Deputy Commissioner, Cheryl Aliverda, is going to read them. Come on up. Lisa's going to hand them out. Ross is taking pictures, and I'll be running back and forth. Thank you. I'm going to start with Manager of the Year. It's Edward Adams, Superintendent at Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility. Ed Adams has been instrumental in leading CRCF through drastic reduction of mandatory overtime by hiring new staff through job fairs, as well as dedication to current staff retention through staff training opportunities, promotions, and staff appreciation. In 2012, prior to Ed being hired, the facility was over budget by over $138,000, close to $139,000.
Then in 2015, CRCF ended in the black by $187,000 due to his management skills. Ed has done this by promoting staff input, acknowledging accomplishments, instilling pride in their work and their facility, leading to less sick leave, healthier staff, and improved morale within all the ranks. Next is Supervisors of the Year. And first is Michael Bior, CLUS at Northwest State Correctional Facility. In the spring of 2015, CLUS Bior was tasked to oversee the relocation of the Vermont Treatment and Prevention of Sexual Abuse, VTIPSA, from the Southeast State Correctional Facility to the Northwest State Correctional Facility. The transition under his supervision went smoothly, and he still provides active supervision as a member of the VTIPSA treatment team. In September of 2015, Northwest's other CLUS went out on leave, and within a month decided to retire, leaving Mike with all the CSS supervision and a void of CLUS duties at Northwest State Correctional Facility. Mike took on the extra responsibilities. Michael Bior maintains a great attitude, outstanding work ethic, is always prepared to jump in and help out, and works until the job is done. These traits are infectious with others, and he instills these values in those that he supervises. Next Supervisor of the Year is Roy Catella, CFSS. Roy Catella is one of the longest serving and most respected supervisors in the DOC. He has served our department for 20 years. Roy has been a pivotal supervisor during the last few years and has led to great contributions to the way of CRCF operates. Roy is also the primary staff person responsible for spearheading CRCF's recruitment and hiring efforts. We have seen tremendous reduction in attrition at CRCF, due in large part to hiring higher quality staff and coaching them along. Roy coordinates the FTO program and has been responsible for coordinating CRCF's local training programs, leading to over 90% compliance in all core comms areas. Roy Catella is a key player in improving the quality of professionalism in our DOC and the culture at CRCF. Correctional Officers of the Year. Scott Morley, CO2, North State Correctional Facility. Officer Morley has worked at Northern State Correctional Facility his entire 20-year career. Officer Morley possesses a working knowledge of the facility at all levels that cannot be rivaled. CO2 Morley has made the transition from CO to CSS to CWS to SOS and back to CO2. In every position, he has excelled. Officer Morley values beyond any issue being fair and logical in his approach to any issue. Officer Morley has such a great sense of himself and his role. He looks after his supervisors, takes on the tough issues and personalities, and hates to be recognized for his efforts. Scott Morley's character and dedication stands as the highest example of excellence. Kenneth Swain, CO1, Southern State Correctional Facility. Ken Swain. Sorry, thank you. CO1 Ken Swain is assigned as the primary Southern State Correctional Facility Intel Officer. In his post, Swain has uncovered witness tampering, resulting in significant legal actions. He also exposed an ongoing child sexual exploitation case that was occurring across state lines. This one involves multiple agencies and jurisdictions, and the inmate and the outside party are facing serious charges. He's also exposed significant security threat group connections and helped to interpret their in-house enterprises. As a direct result of CO2 Swain's dedication and hard work, Southern State Correctional Facility is a safer place to work, and the community is a safer place to be, with local sites, his professionalism and willingness to go the extra mile. CSTLs of the Year, Paul Trucott, Work Crew Foreman, Work Foreman Paul Trucott balances security and customer relations to ensure all parties' needs are met. In 3 short years, Paul has led a strong team of crew leaders to become even stronger, more efficient, and more accountable to the department, to each other, and to themselves. Paul uses a combination of business and life experience correctional experiences and a well-grounded common sense approach with all that comes into contact with. Paul has been instrumental in combating the introduction of contraband, changing the culture, and setting the bar high and holding himself, his crew leaders, other staff, and inmates accountable. Michael Merchant, CSTL, Morrisville Probation and Parole. Mike was asked to take on responsibility for the Morrisville work crew when the assigned staff member was unavailable for an extended period of time, all in addition to his duties at Barry P&P. He quickly developed an understanding of the Morrisville operation, keeping it functional, all while implementing OMS into the work crew operation. Mike developed excellent working relationships with local staff and site supervisors, contractors, as well as clients on the crew. The Morrisville Probation and Parole has received several calls for appreciation for all Mike has done in working. Corrections Service Specialist of the Year. Tina Haywood, CSS2, Northeast Correctional Unit. As an experienced CSS2, Tina Haywood is reliable, efficient, energetic, and unrelenting in the performance of her duties, ensuring department philosophy and directives are constantly maintained. Tina is fair, firm, and consistent in her performance and delivery when managing offenders. Tina manages each case with her heart while adhering to the parameters set forth. In essence, Tina goes the extra mile in balancing the goals of the department and the goals of each individual offender on her caseload. Tina has received numerous acknowledgments from other department staff for her performance and follow-through on cases, as well as several accolades from other agencies and community partners, citing her professional communication, dedication, and follow-through. Alita Feeney Brasso, CSS2, Brattleboro P&P. Alita carries a sex offender caseload at Brattleboro P&P. She maintains a high degree of integrity, knowledge, and professionalism with this challenging and complicated group. She identifies the specific risks posed by each offender individually and responds appropriately to that offender's situation in a clear, supportive, and responsive manner. She's a fierce advocate for getting necessary, often limited housing services for these she supervises, and she always goes the extra mile to just do it right the first time. Christina Granger, CSS2, Southern State Correctional Facility. CSS2 Christina Granger is often tasked with extra assignments due to her communication skills. Over the last couple of years, she's been called upon numerous times to help out with a particular inmate who is often challenging to work with. She's able to get him to shower, shave, and move to a different cell so his cell can be cleaned when others have not been able to gain compliance. CSS Granger is called upon for other staff assignments as well. She's an expert at file audits and is always more than willing to help other staff out with making sure they are complete. She always goes the extra mile for everything she does. She's a terrific team player. Administrative Support Services Employee of the Year, Sandra Williams Crosley, Administrative Assistant A at Hartford Probation and Parole. Sandra is very skilled at organizing the day-to-day priorities and quick to assist others in critical needs. This year, Sandra was instrumental in working with the OMS team to include coordinating all training efforts and led to a smooth transition. In July of last year, Hartford office moved to a newly constructed work site. The task took 2 years in the planning. Sandra became involved in the process from the very beginning and worked closely in being the lead liaison for our move. This was a tremendous amount of work. Sandra's greatest strength is she always shows up with work cheerfully, spreading goodwill to the entire staff. Support Services Employee of the Year, Sarah Truckle, Policy and Implementation Analyst, PBU Central Office. Sarah Truckle started her career at DOC, she's consistently contributed to the continuous improvement of department operations by creating clear, concise, and accurate policy documents. In her first year of employment, working with multiple staff and stakeholders, she was able to finalize all the outstanding policy documents required to achieve PREA compliance. This was an outstanding accomplishment given the complexity of the work and the time requirement. Since that time, she has finalized over 20 additional policy documents. She's also completed the massive reworking of the Case Management Directive, which required extensive research and collaboration across all the department's operations. In every aspect of her work, Sarah is focused on creating an open and collaborative environment. She is an excellent ambassador for our department. Corrections Team of the Year, the Peer Support Team. Tyler Cruz, Team Leader, Central Office. Laura Quinn, Corrections Complex. Manny Sullivan, Southern State Correctional Complex. Jody Safford, Southern State Correctional Complex. Chris Baird, Southern State Correctional Complex. Kyle Beckwith, Southern State Correctional. John Turek, Northwest State Correctional. Matt Ingalls, Northwest State Correctional. Stephen Russell, Northeast. Sorry. Amber Gibbs, Central Office. Samuel Santos, Burlington P&P. Wendy Yoder, Central Office. And Ben Webster, Marble Valley. Peer support is simply our friend or colleague listening to one another to help him or her cope with stress, a traumatic event, or even decompression of the daily grind. Employees that dedicate themselves to being part of the peer support team do so in a selfless manner. Peer supporters give their time and efforts to support corrections employees process difficult and stressful situations. They're available on short notice, set aside their normal duties and responsibilities to respond to locations of need around the state. They make themselves available to help others process incidents, move forward, and learn from their experience in a safe environment. Peer supporters are an important part of staff wellness and offer support that can only be given by a coworker that cares about the health and well-being of their fellow corrections employee.
I gotta see all your faces. Good.
Next, I would like to have Michael Touchette, the Director of Correctional Facilities, come up. He's going to talk a little about the Preservation of Life Awards. Thank you.
Good morning. We're almost at the lunch hour, and Lord knows that correction staff and food are hard to get in the way of, so far be it from me to get in the way of that, but I do want to take an opportunity just to say a couple of words. The first is that a couple of weeks ago, a couple of my peers and I had a meeting with NIC, and it was comical, the response we got from them. And I wanted to share that here because it's important for you all to realize just how powerful and extraordinary the work that you're doing is. So we called them for a technical assistance process to work through them, and they laughed at us. And we, what's up, why are you laughing at us? And they said, we're amazed that the Vermont Department of Corrections is calling NIC for a technical assist. You guys are in the front of everything, you're the face of everything, you lead. So that's really important for you all. It was really important for me to hear that, and certainly for all of you to hear that too, that we are recognized not just here today, but also around the nation and in the globe as well. The second note I want to say is in a conversation on Friday with the Executive Director of Prisoners' Rights, he told me something that I'm sure he won't get in writing, but it was very, very important to me. And that was that everywhere he goes and every time he explores how other Department of Corrections are operating, he comes back to Vermont and says that we are doing a fantastic job. We're caring, we're compassionate, we have integrity. Those are powerful words coming from an inmate advocacy group, and it tells me a lot about the peers that I work with every day, just how important this work is and how well you do it. And that's my segue into the Preservation of Life Award. It's about the caring, compassion, and integrity. On a daily basis, corrections officers and field officers deal with difficult situations, and what we don't often see are the things that prevent the need for medical care or a significant intervention on the part of our staff and or our partners. This is the opportunity, though, to recognize those staff who did take those extra steps to preserve the life of an individual and again, providing the integrity and care, regardless of who that person was, regardless of what their history was, regardless of how their behavior was in the facility, these staff stepped up without hesitation to intervene and save a person's life. So these are the preservations of life.
Kyle Leonard and Jessica Daniels, Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility. December 19, 2015, during a routine transport from Marble Valley, an inmate suffered a medical emergency resulting in her loss of consciousness. Transporting officers Jessica Daniels and Kyle Leonard immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation. They stopped the transport van, contacted emergency services, and provided first aid until the EMTs arrived. During this time, the inmate continued to fade in and out of consciousness. The inmate was ultimately transported to the hospital and subsequently has recovered. The attentiveness to the responding officers and their quick action in providing first aid and getting EMTs on the site was critical to the successful resolution of the incident. Gregory Dwyer and Joseph Aoun, Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility. On January 27, 2015, CO2 Gregory Dwyer discovered an inmate at Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility hanging with a torn piece of bed sheets. At the time of his discovery, the inmate did not appear to be breathing and his face was gray in color. CO2 Joseph Aoun and CO2 Dwyer immediately entered the cell. They removed the makeshift noose and the inmate was able to resume breathing on his own and shortly after regained consciousness. As a result of CO2 Dwyer's timely discovery of this inmate and the immediate life-saving actions of CO2's Dwyer and Aoun, the inmate made a full recovery. James Gray, Northwest State Correctional Facility. On January 28, 2016, Officer James Braid was supervising the Northwest State Correctional Facility dining hall when an inmate began to choke on food. The inmate was in obvious distress and could not breathe. The officer, without hesitation, administered the Heimlich maneuver several times until food was dislodged from the inmate's throat. A review of the incident video by first aid instructors and medical staff called the officer's technique and response to be perfect. Officer Braid's quick thinking and the use of his training saved the inmate's life. Brad McCormick and Nicholas Daigle, Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility. On October 1st, 2015, COs 2 Brad McCormick and Nicholas Daigle were transporting an inmate from Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility back to the hospital. The inmate had confronted police with a firearm that evening. He subsequently attempted to refuse to leave the hospital with DOC, nearly resulting in a use of force. On the return ride, he hung himself using his sweatshirt string. Despite the danger in entering the rear of the van with an inmate who had been uncooperative all evening, they immediately stopped, untied the string, and provided life-saving measures. As a direct result of their observation and assistance, the inmate suffered no lasting ill effects from this incident. Nicholas Daigle, Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility.
We're going to chair.
On July 28, 2015, at Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility, Recreation Coordinator McIntyre began choking on food. He was unable to breathe or dislodge the food himself. This was a potentially life-threatening situation. CO1 Nicholas Daigle observed the signs of medical distress. He immediately approached Recreation Coordinator McIntyre and performed the Heimlich maneuver, dislodging the food and allowing Mr. McIntyre to begin breathing again. As a result of CO2 Daigle's quick thinking and unhesitating action, Mr. McIntyre suffered no long-term harm from the incident. Ken Cooper, Jeff McKee, Southern State Correctional Facility. On Saturday, January 16, 2016, Inmate A was on dry cell status in Southern State Correctional Facility Admissions Control. CO1 Jeff McKee and the assigned AC officer McKee had just completed a unit tour. CO2 Ken Cooper and CO1 Evan Haley had just returned from a transport. Once inside Admissions Control, Haley completed another unit tour. Haley observed an inmate standing at his cell door. Approximately 2 minutes after Haley's tour, CO2 Cooper passed the inmate's cell, looked in to see him lying with torn boxers fashioned as a noose around his neck and tied off the bunk. Cooper told McKee to call the numbers. He checked for safety and then entered the cell, immediately removing ligature from the inmate's throat. The inmate only sustained minor injuries due to the quick action of CO2 Ken Cooper and CO1 Jeff McKee. Evan Haley, Southern State Correctional Facility. On April 9, 2016, CO1 Haley was was working as a Southern State Correctional Facility unit officer when an inmate tied a television power cord around his neck and attached it to the railing of the upper tier. The inmate then lowered himself over the railing. Haley saw this and immediately responded, running to support the inmate to avoid strangulation. He attempted to radio for assistance and found that his radio couldn't transmit, although it was receiving. He quickly ran back to the panel and activated the emergency response button and then returned to the inmate. Upon returning to resume support to the inmate, the wire snapped under the inmate's weight and Haley lowered him down to the floor. Review of the film shows all this took place in approximately 20 seconds. The inmate's injuries were minimal. Taylor Coda, North State Correctional Facility. On July 15, 2015, CO1 Taylor Coda was new to the Northern State Correctional Facility and Corrections, recognized an event unfolding and responded without hesitation with the utmost professionalism and compassion. CO1 Coda actually positioned himself underneath an offender going over the railing on the second tier in an attempt to hang himself. CO1 Coda provided a buffer and thereby reduced the traumatic injury that most certainly would have occurred had he not responded with his immediate action. CO1 Coda's response was critical in saving an inmate from hanging himself in the living unit. Scott Bowman, Northern State Correctional Facility. On August 6, 2015, CO1 Scott Bowman was on duty in the Specialized Medical Unit at Northern State Correctional Facility. On the state, he identified a small amount of blood on an inmate's tray while performing his regular duties. CO1 Bowman immediately called to report his findings. Upon reporting to the unit, it was evident that the inmate was attempting to cover his body and there was additional blood identified. After removing the coverings from the inmate, it was discovered the inmate had lacerations on his neck in a suicide attempt. The inmate was treated by the medical department before being transferred by ambulance to the hospital for further assessment and established stabilization. CO1 Bowman's attention to detail and immediate recording of his keen observations prevented a potential loss of life. Peter Grattan, Northern State Correctional Facility. On December 13, 2015, CO Peter Grattan discovered an inmate in Northern State Correctional Facility hanging himself in his cell. After calling 1033, CO1 Grattan identified that the fabric around the inmate's neck could be unfastened and he removed the fabric. He identified a clearly lethal situation and intervened with good results. Lori Eastman, Northern State Correctional Facility. On December 26, 2015, CO1 Lori Eastman, who was new to the Northern State Correctional Facility and Corrections, was summoned to a secured cell door by an inmate. When CO1 Eastman opened the door, she discovered the inmate's cellmate on the floor of the cell with material around his neck. The inmate was unresponsive and in a fetal position. CO1 Eastman called 1033 and was able to get the inmate positioned outside of his cell. Due to her experience as an EMT, CO1 Eastman was able to safely apply her knowledge to ensure the stabilization of the inmate while awaiting the medical team. CO1 Eastman demonstrated good, solid judgment in identifying and addressing life-threatening situation. Matthew Myers, Northern State Correctional Facility. On December 1st, 2015, CO1 Matthew Myers identified an inmate in Northern State Correctional Facility, Chow Hall, that was choking. CO1 Myers immediately administered life-saving measures, which in turn dislodged the food item from the individual's throat. Edward Chersey, Aaron Stetson, Benjamin Mallory, Justin Leno. Northern State Correctional Facility. On January 28, 2016, an inmate at the Northeast Correctional Complex on the campsite was seriously assaulted. Unit Officer CO1 Leno immediately radioed a 1033 and kept the scene clear. CFSS Chersey, CO2 Stetson, and CO2 Mallory responded and immediately began life-saving measures. They maintained C-spine stabilization and kept the inmate calm while medical staff assessed the injuries. Due to the quick response and actions of these officers, Dr. Stephen Fisher, Centurion's medical director, stated that without the assistance in stabilizing the spine, the inmate would have suffered significant damage and would quite possibly be a paraplegic. So next we come to the anniversaries, the 20, 25, 30, 35, and even 40-year employees. I'm going to read your name, come on up, and then we'll take a group picture all together. 20-year certificates and folders: Judy Brasser, Lynn Bushy, Carol Kalia, John Casarino, Roy Catella, Susan Colburn, Bernadette Dewing, John Frechette, Matthew George, Joe Gray, Dennis Ingalls, Reginald Montani, Karen Lawson, John Long, Jason Manley, Alan Monnier, Barbara Colin West, George Reed, Gary Stevens, John Sylvia, David Talcott, Gary Tucker, and John Turk.
I don't.
I can see everybody's face. Good.
It's part of the service that we perform. You award it and then you find it. It's okay.
25 years: Bob Arkley, Rich Byrne, Dan Sharon, Charlene Cook, John Cross, John Driscoll, Howard Duso, Brad Dunsmore, Phil Fernandez, Keith Heald, Christopher Hebert, James Camel, Carl Mallet, Larry Martineau, Michael Merchant, Jonathan Phillips, Mary Poulos, Keith Randall, Brian Reed, Marcia Rowell, Glenn Shattuck, Karen Slayton, and Scott Stevens.
Okay, let's get everybody in. Still gonna have to squish it in a little more. Okay. Now to see everybody's face. Good to go.
Suzanne Bedard, Glenn Boyd, Sherry Kaforia, Scott Decatur, Mark Gino, James Gibson, Christina Hetzel, Tracy Honsinger, David Martinson, Lisa Menard, Sandra Olberg, Michael Peterson, Edward Shanks, Catherine St. John, Cassandra Torrey, Johnny White, and Robert Wood.
Let's get everybody's face in there. Good. "35 years, Steve Bushy, Ray Hurst."
40 years. Helena Kessup, Judy Palman Mainville, Sherry Rathbun, Betsy Rutledge, Sarah Sisto. This concludes the rewards and recognition part. Attendee, I do want to apologize if I missaid your name. I really did practice and try to get them all right, but if I did, sorry, I apologize. Thank you and have a great lunch. If someone from your site is not here, please do come and get that for the reward for them. And as well, the proclamations for the week, please get them as well too. Thank you.